Hi there, this is Aniket D'Souza and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to take you through um, one of the most awesome tricks that you can use in Photoshop. And in this session, we'll be talking about um, how you can create Google Display ads extremely quickly, right? So if I were to show you, let's say if you're going to use this particular ad, and this is just one creative, how can I do it instantly like this and export the whole thing out in this particular format? So let me just show you how it actually comes out. So you can see over here, it will show you all of these creatives. It will get you all of these creatives. So instead of actually doing these creatives one by one, you can actually do it all together, right? And that's what I'm going to show you today on how to do it very quickly. So if you were to actually do this one by one, it's going to take you time because you're going to open up one PSD, try to copy certain elements, and then try to move on. The technique that I'm actually using here is called Artboard. Some of you might be familiar with it, some of you might not be familiar with it. But basically, what I'm trying to do is use the Artboard technique or the Artboard feature, which is in Photoshop, to be used under when doing Google Display ads. And this is one of the fastest way to actually do it because you can have or you can edit multiple PSDs, which are for different dimensions all together. So what I've done to make these things easier is I've actually created a template that you can use, which you can see it's something like this. It's got all these sizes over here. So what you can do is once you've already done your designs, now think about this as 300 by 250, and this is a canvas size. So this is a canvas, this is a canvas, this one is a canvas as well, and the others are canvases as well. So what happens is you don't have to struggle trying to figure out what should be the dimension when you're designing for Google Display, and try to figure out what are the ways that how can you basically get it right perfectly all the time. All you have to do is just keep them side by side. So I've already created this as a easy way to or an easy handy guide, which you can download right. I mean, I'm adding it in the description of this particular video, so you can simply download it and you can get started with making Google Display ads instantly. This is how they're going to look at the end of it, and this is the original creative, right? So some of the things that you need to know is once you're done with it, you can just export it. You can click on File, Export, and then you say Artboards to Files. Now when you say Artboards to Files, everything that is within this artboard, such as these canvases, will export to a destination folder. Now that destination folder in this case I've actually created as new, and that's where it's actually come out, and you can see all of them, they get named automatically. They get named after the file, and along with that the dimension or the artboard or the canvas names that I've added in. So it very neatly um, shows up all the particular ads that I've actually created. So let's just dive into it. I'm going to delete this folder for now, and let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to understand is that we have a set of these artboards that I've already created. This is one artboard, and under that there are multiple canvases. You can see that these are all the different canvases. These have been created, and if you want to create a new dimension, maybe something that is not here right now, you can just simply click and drag it here, and it will create another copy. And then once that is done, you can simply just drag that, place it here, and then change the name. So let's say I'm creating a dimension, uh, let's say 200 by 200, right? So I'm just going to change that, double click here, 200 x 200. And once I do that, that's not enough because this is just renaming what this particular canvas size is. But what you actually need to do is come up here, look at the artboard properties, and then change it over there as well. So that's 200 by 200, and that's the actual size, right? So that's the actual size of the dashboard. So there you are. We have another dashboard size which I've actually added. Now coming to our creative. So we have this one creative, and we want to actually put this across on all of these sizes. And the fastest way to do it is to simply drag it, right? So what I'm going to do right now is actually understand how is this particular creative broken down. So let's look at this layer is basically that small logo that you can see over here. Then there is something which is a good health logo. Then there are some lines. There is this white patch at the background, and then there is the text element, which is a huge text element. There's a model element. There are some graphics which will go with the background, and then there is the background itself. Right now, first thing that you need to do when you're preparing for Google Display Banner sizes like this is to prepare the first PSD. Right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at what we need to do to prepare. So if you see over here, these four main items over here on the or four main layers or folders of layers are all about the logo, right? So first, what we're going to do is just group them. I'm just going to call it the logo unit. I mean, just for simplicity's sake. And then I have just one full logo unit. I've got the text, I've got model, I've got graphics, and I've got the background. Now, I don't need this particular background, so I'm going to just come here and click on delete. And this is all I need, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag and drop it. So let me just delete this for now because we don't really need this one. You've got an idea of what we're trying to create. And so you can see over here, we've got these sizes. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to select which layer are you working on. So let's say I'm working on this layer or this particular creative. I'm just going to come here and zoom out. I'm going to select this one. Use your move tool, right click, 300 by 250. So similarly, you can just go out and you can select this one, 336 by 280. So similarly, you can just zoom out and you can actually get all the different sizes all together. So for now, let's start with 300 by 280. And all I'm going to do over here is just drag and drop, as simple as that, right? What else do you need? So I'm just gonna come here, and I know that this is the place it needs to go. I'm gonna select all the elements and just drag and drop. It's gonna tell me about converting and stuff like that. That's okay. No problem with that. Let's just convert. It's gonna come here. Now if you see, it's huge, right? So that's what we need to actually convert, or we need to bring it in place. So you can see that some of the elements have actually run away. There are some elements that have actually moved out, which we need to fix. So let's move that into the main area. Okay. So I'm just going to move this. This unit is off place. So I'm just going to come here, add it under the 300 by 250. Now you can see all these elements are already here, and all I have to do is just select the whole thing, go to show transform controls, and I'm pretty sure it's large, right? So you can see that if I zoom out, it's that big. So I'm just going to reduce the size. It says that it's going to shrink the text and stuff like that. So I'm just going to reduce the whole size. Now you're free to do it in your own way. I mean, you're also someone who already understands Photoshop. So I'm just going to do it my way. And this is just one of the ways that I use. I'm just going to click on double click. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is, yes, there are things that you can do, like, convert it to a vector art and convert it to a smart image and stuff like that. Feel free to do that. For now, I'm just giving it for an explanation's sake, trying to tell you how you can actually get these things done pretty quickly. So as you can see over here, we have the logo unit, we have the model, we have the graphics and the background. So I'm just going to select the background, adjust the background accordingly. So yeah, so let me just adjust the background quickly. Yeah, all right, great. So I have the background. I need to adjust the graphics as well so that it looks interesting. Yeah. Now I definitely need the main logo unit, right? So that's something that I need to definitely keep it. So over here, if you see that it kind of occupies a lot of space, so I'm just going to reduce it slightly, not a lot. Yeah, there it is. And I have this model. I'm just going to select that model, make it come, bring it down, reduce the size maybe, because I definitely have to add the text as well, right? Adding the text. Now Remember that we're doing a Google ad. Now, if you're going to do a Google ad, there are these three rules that you need to maintain, which is one, it needs to ensure that you have a CTA or a button that basically sends people to the destination. So you definitely need a button that has to be added. So you need to make sure that although there is this all of this thing in one place, whether it is a small size, your button has to be there and it should be visible, right? So those are things that you need to take care of. Now coming to the next point, which is about need to ensure size is 150 KB. Yes, when you're designing such small creatives, your size is more likely to be below 150 KB. If it's not, then we'll have to convert that or to make that. Next is use paragraph text if working in different languages, right? So if you were to actually look at working in, let's say, Russian or Thai, and then ideally you would have to use the paragraph text so that the meaning doesn't change because in some languages there are no spaces, and it kind of helps when you're using a paragraph text. Uh, I hope you know what paragraph text is. It simply means that you click on the text. You don't just click and type. You just click and drag so that it moves into paragraph text, and the system already knows where to make the break or where to break the lines as well. So let's look at this, right, as an example. I'm just going to, so there is no place to actually put it this way, so I'm just going to put that in one corner here. And I'm actually going to add the text element slightly towards the, so let me just create this here. Yeah, and I'm going to convert the text element, make that, just click OK, put that here. Right. So we have the text element. Sweet. All right. So I'm not going to add the button right now, or you could also look at adding the button right away. Let's just add the button. So I've created a very simple button image which just says "Explore Now," more of a PNG file. I'm just going to click and just bring that in as well. So maybe you can actually use that. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just convert this button into a smart object. So that way, when there are bigger sizes, it's easier. Perfect. So that's one creative already done. Now, let's say if you were to make another creative, right? So you would generally what you would do is you would open up a new PSD and create it. In this case, not exactly. What I would do is I would simply from here select the whole all of these units under the 380 by 280 or whatever. Sorry, 300 by 250. Just click and drag all of these elements into a new layer. So it creates a duplicate. And all I'm going to do here is move it into the 336 by 280. So I'm just going to click here, drag and move it into this layer. It's automatically come there, and that's how fast you can actually design. So what I'm doing right now is simply just moving these elements. So I can see that this is the logo unit. I'm just going to add it over here on the top, right? So, and you can always zoom in, see for yourself if all of it is fine. Now you can see this particular background. I'm going to transform controls, ensure that the background is in place. See the graphics are in place. I'm just going to increase the size, decrease the size, however I like it. Yeah, and this particular text is fine. Now, yeah, had you rasterized it, great. You can actually play around with it, but you have a call here, right? So if you generally have the text right now, I'm using more of it like a JPEG, but um, I would suggest that when you have the text and you have the font. Currently, I don't have this font, so I'm not actually trying to edit it. But if you have the font, you might as well make sure that the fonts are of the right size, and it looks perfect. So if you see over here, we've done with two different creators in an instant. So let's look at the third one, right? So all I'm going to do is again, just select it. So I can let me just hide this one. I'm not going to do the last one here, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so now I have 336 by 280. I've got 300 by 250, which is already done, and I want to actually make the 300 by 600 one. So I'm just going to click on it and drag it into the 300 by 600. So before I do that, yes, I need to first duplicate it. So I'm just going to click on this, drag it here. It's all duplicated. I'm going to take the whole unit again, click and drag it into the 300 by 600. It's already come there. And now what I'm going to do is simply just um, make sure that I have the alignment here. Okay, I have the background and the graphics. I'm just going to drag the background down. I'm going to see if there are any layers that I have to adjust. Yes, so I have this one. I have this background on. This background which is not adjusted properly. Yeah. Now I have this particular layer here of brush. Sorry, not the brush, the graphics. So I'm just going to click on the graphics bit. And so I can see these graphics here. I'm just going to bring those graphics down. Right. So similarly, now in this case we have graphics like this. I'm just going to invert that graphics altogether. Yeah, so I think these graphics slightly moved around, so that's the reason why it showed on top of these layers. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is, since this particular creative is comparatively large, let's just put the model right in the center. Now, if you have the model as a vector, you can obviously convert her into a vector first, and then you can actually do all the work, or you can have everything done in vector itself. But this is, I'm just showing it to you from demonstration purposes. But when you're actually doing it, you can always try doing it with vector as well as the fonts. I'm sure that you will have the fonts because you've already done the creative. So you should ideally have the fonts as well. Now, if you see this, all of these elements are already here. I can also duplicate this graphics layer so that it comes on the top. Let me just duplicate it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna bring that right on the top. So yeah, you can use edit transform, various different features that you can possibly have just to give the effect. So that part is done. Let's look at these ones which are really flat right now, right? So they're not vertical, they're not squarish, very completely different. So let's look at that one. Now what we're going to do is we will have to put it in that dimension. So this is a 728 by 90. So I'm just going to click on that. And I need to basically make it into a horizontal version. So let me just pick up the one which we had done with 300 by 250. So things like this, you need to identify which one will you pick up so it becomes faster. I'm going to click on that and I will duplicate everything that's over here. Simple duplication, just click and drag it, move that into the 728 by 90. Now that you have this design, all you have to do is sorry all you have to do is actually follow the approach. Sorry, there is something that went into 320 by, hold on. So there's something that went into a wrong one. Yeah, so 728 by 290, we have that. Great. So now what we're going to do is just select let's look at the logo unit. We're going to just drag the logo unit completely towards the edge. Yeah. You know that it has a background, so I'm just going to just drag that towards the edge. Right. So we've dragged the background and we're making it. So there is a brush which the designer had already added, so we're going to add that. Graphics now, yes, we have a lot of these graphics over here. They're everywhere, literally. So we just need to make sure that these graphics look good. I'm just going to copy and paste these in a way that you cannot really, I mean, it's actually everywhere, right? So I'm just going to add some of these graphics in some of these places. So it kind of doesn't look off at all. Yeah. And once I'm done with this, that we finish these graphics, right? I need to add the main elements, like you have the text and you have different elements, right? So we have the model. I'm just going to pull the model up. We'll have to reduce the size because the model size, because the image is going to be more of trying to have a model in place. Now I want to give as much meat or as much room for the model also. So let's have the model done. Then I have the text element, right? So we need more space for the text element as well. So we're just gonna place the text part in a place that you can actually have things being read and it's visible to the eye. And then yes, there is this small tiny button that I always wanted to add. Yes, so sometimes those things can happen where you're touching a layer um, and the whole unit moves. In such cases, simply I use the arrow keys, and then from there, once you have access to it, you can simply just drag it, place it in a place that you would really want to put it. You can always put the model will come always first, so that you want the user to actually see the model first, then the text, then the explore now button. This button, if you're a visualizer, then you'd probably be the best person to actually know where you want to put it. But ideally this button size should be similar across all your ads so that it's visible. Try not messing around with this button. I do know that certain sizes would be extremely small for this button as well, such as 320 by 50, but try keeping it in a way that you can actually use them, right? So the next one, let's go to the next design. We've got 728 by 90, that's already done. We have a 320 by 100, so let's look at 320 by 100. I'm just going to open up the 728 by 90, just drag and drop. So let's do the 320 by 50 because that's even smaller. So let's pick up that, right? I'm just going to duplicate it, and now I'm just going to copy and put that in that unit. Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do is, again, so just a second, I think not all of it was transferred. Let's transfer the whole thing. Yeah. So you can see over here the text and model was only transferred, the rest of the elements are still here. So we'll need to actually see what are the elements that are not transferred, what are the ones that are transferred. So it kind of becomes, sometimes it kind of is, there are too many layers that you're playing around with, but I would ideally look at it from a perspective of trying to solve the problem, and this is one of the faster way to solve the problem. So let's look at putting all of them inside. Right. So I'm just gonna, so you can see that there is multiple layers here. I'm just gonna drag it and put it under this. So here. Okay, so there are two layers under this. There is the text element and there is the model. So let's fix it one by one. So model, we will have to basically do it somewhat like that. I'm just gonna place the model towards the side. I'm just gonna add the healthy part of it, the text element, right? So move that in a way that you can actually have the person as well. So you can see that this there's absolutely no place, but we need to figure out how we could actually run with it so that it's still readable to the naked eye. So I'm just going to place these elements in such a way just to make sure that you can actually read it from far, right? Rather than not read it. And sometimes we can have like extremely small creatives done, which makes it a lot difficult. So let's look at the other elements here. So um, we've got the graphics, we've got the other graphics as well. So there are two graphics here which we need to add on. Just move that. So we have a background that we need to add. Maybe this background right to the top. Yeah. So sometimes if it doesn't copy, don't worry, just copy it. But the beauty is that you can actually do all of this work together. You don't have to actually struggle towards getting your work done one by one, and you will be able to do all of the work together rather than trying to struggle with doing one by one. So yeah, so you have this, and then yes, what we need is the unit, which is the logo unit, which is that one. So I'm gonna duplicate that and then bring it to the top right here. So this one needs to be adjusted as well, so we're gonna just place that. Still struggle to actually keep it readable as much as possible. We don't want it to actually not be readable, so this is something that we'll have to adjust. um, Also making sure that when you're trying to make it readable, you need to make sure that all the text elements are still visible, as well as the model is not hampered. So we just try to you know position it in a way that you can actually place this. Now the next last part is the button. So this is one of the ways that I really love. I just try to duplicate that, drag it here, and it's already come onto this other layer, right? So you don't really have to you know struggle too much to actually create a button or duplicate it even from the right side. You can actually do it from here itself. Just select this button from here and then directly drag it. The moment you drag it, it's already come to this other canvas that we were talking about. So yeah, we're done with the button as well, and we've done with all the other elements. Great. So once you're done with this, let's just have a look. Yeah. Once you're done with this, then there's the last one. So what we are doing is, let's say you come here, 300 by 250. We're just gonna drag and drop that element right here, or I can do it with this 336 by 281. So let me just pull that. This is a 320 by 100. I'm just going to bring that down. Yeah, 336 by 280. Great. So what we're going to do is select all of it, duplicate it. Once it's duplicated, I'm just going to drag it and put it inside this unit. So you can see all of the elements have actually come. If they are not come, or if they have actually lost their way, like these two, you can feel free to just drag and drop them inside. So I'm just going to put them back in their place. Yeah. So you have all the elements in one place. You can see that some of the elements have come here. Just like that. Yeah. Now it's a matter of just adjusting the model. Simple adjustments. All you have to know is what are the elements that are there. So if there are 5 elements, make sure that all the 5 elements are actually shown up in the creative. So now this is the text element. Definitely want to make it slightly small. There is the logo element. And I want to make sure the logo is visible. And there is the button altogether. So I think that's the last element that's required. Button is required. It's a mandatory thing to have the button. So let's say I need to move this slightly even further. I need to move this one slightly towards the right so that you should be able to see. Yeah. So as you can see over here, we are almost done with the creative. We're almost done with all the elements. This can be slightly even smaller. As long as you can read it from far, not a problem. But as you can see, we're all done with this. Now the main part is you've got to export it, right? You've got to export this into multiple files, and here's what you do. You go to File, click on, don't go to Save As, just go to Export, and then do artboards to files. Now, I don't know, for whatever reason, my screen actually ends up showing like this. So what I generally do is you'll need to select. So this is basically the place where you're going to select. I know it because I've tested it several times. Currently, the memory on my laptop is not that great, so that's the reason why you end up seeing something like this. But I figured out that you can just click on this, find out the location. So let's say I'm going to the desktop. I'm clicking on. It's not necessary. You can just save whatever you want. For now, let's say I'll save it as Google Display Ads. Right? I'm just going to create, and that's the place where I want to save it. And um, let's say if I'm going to select OK, sometimes it just, I mean, it depends on what you've selected. If you selected all of them, then all of them will basically get exported. If you've selected only one, let's say one artboard, then only one of them will get selected. So let's say you can actually select just one like that and make sure that just one of them gets exported. Or you can actually select all of them and then try to export all of them as well. So you can come over here and check, and you will see all of them have actually exported. Now, if you see over here, it's been exported incorrectly. So you see this, these two elements are here. There was a problem there, which means that my creative here is kind of messed up, right? So that's something that I noticed just now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove, this is a logo unit, which is not required. This is another unit. I think that basically shifted when we were actually trying to get something done there. So let me just look at this. This is the 300 by 600 layer. So I'm just going to look at 300 by 600 layer. And you can see over here the background um, is, yeah. So that's the problem. That was the problem. So we had the whole thing come up over here. Now I want to just uh, export just one of these. I don't really want to export a lot of them, just one of them. So I'm just going to select the 300 by 600, and I'm just going to do a quick export as, or I can do a save as well. You can choose, just that you want to just export a certain layer as well. So you can actually pick up. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is just go with the same approach right now. Let's go to Artboard Files. That's one of them. I'm just going to click on OK, and it should ideally be done. So let's just look at that. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to delete this one. I did not delete it. Pen. So you can see all the other creatives are done, right? And all I have to do right now is just file, export, go to files. I've already selected the area. Just click on process. So there's something that is pending that has not been exported. It should ideally get exported as well. I think it's the memory bit that's not working. Anyways, just go back and you can just, I'm just gonna export it again. But I think you get the picture, right? I mean, that's how easy it is. Oh, I think it was exporting not into the folder, but I think it was exporting outside. So I'm assuming that all of that is actually not going into the folder. It's actually creating, it's getting exported externally. So see here. So I've selected just the 300 by 600. That's the reason. Oh, and yeah, it was getting exported to the outside folder, not the inside folder. So that was what was happening. That was the issue. So yes, so sometimes what happens is, let's say if you select just one of them, there is a chance that it exports only one of them, and that's where you have to know that, okay, you might have to select all of them, right? So in this case, let's do this. I'm just gonna remove that, right? Hold on, you don't need this. And this is something that I discovered with trial and error. I just clicked on it, file, export. Now I've clicked on the instructions layer, export artboard to files. But before that, let me just clear all of them. Yeah, file, export, artboard to files. I'm not going to click on desktop because that is where it was exporting continuously. Now I'm just going to click on Google Display New Ads. and click on that, and then all of them will just start processing. All different sizes are going to start processing. Once all of that is over, it's going to just pop up a message like that, and voila, that's where it is. All the creative's done with all the buttons, everything that you need, all the designs that are there in just an instant. Now imagine this, that this tutorial itself took this long. For you to actually do it, being a designer, it's going to be extremely fast, right? So you're not going to spend a lot of time trying to dictate on how it's to be designed and all of that. It's instant, it's easy, and you don't have to actually open PSDs and multiple PSDs. You just have to move around elements. You can simply copy this layer right from here, and then if you notice over here, I'm just selecting this layer. Let's say I'm selecting the text layer here. Let's say I select the text layer here, I click on delete, I'm clicking on the text layer here, and all I have to do is just click on Alt, or if you're using a Mac, Option, just click on it and just drag it here, right? So you will notice it if you look at it closely in the layer section. You will notice that this layer, which was on 300 by 250, has already been copied into the 336 by 280 as well. And that's a brilliant thing, because right now what's going to happen is you don't really need multiple PSDs to work on. You can just drag and drop from different canvases right inside this artboard itself, and that is one of the fastest way to make all the creatives or get done with all the creatives instantly. Great. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I hope you learned something interesting, and this is one of the tools that's going to make it extremely fast, so that you can be more productive, and you don't have to actually waste time going back and forth trying to play around with creatives, try to evaluate whether a certain creative is going to look good, not good, and then sometimes you tend to miss out saying which side should be the model. Should it be on the left? Should it be on the right? You can actually see all your creatives here. And considering that this is an artboard, you can have large artboards, right? So you can have not just these sizes. You can just keep on adding new sizes on and on continuously. So you can just click on additional. So let's say I'm going to add one more. I can add one to the bottom, or I can just write. So if you see when I click on this, you get a size over here, and you can just adjust it. So let's say I want to make a size which is 200 width and 100 in terms of the 200 width, and let's say 400 as the height, and you can just create a new canvas right here itself, as simple as that. And that's the beauty of using artboards, right? With something that you couldn't do earlier with earlier Photoshops. Right now you can do it with the new Photoshop that you probably have. I'm assuming that you have the 2018 or the latest version, because that's where you can actually do it. In case you have the artboard feature, then this is going to basically reduce your workload, which is going to be generally a lot to a shorter time span. All right, thank you so much for listening to the video. If you find that interesting, please drop it in the comments, and uh, and good and all the best on your time saving.